Welcome to another episode of Bourbon and Rum. This is a podcast of two brothers from opposite ends of the spectrum. My name's Kent. I'm a rum drinker, and I'm from the left side of the aisle.
And I'm Kyle. I like bourbon, tend to be a little more conservative. Join us as we explore this experiment. Can two brothers from different sides of the political spectrum have a civil conversation and celebrate our differences?
What are you drinking?
I'm drinking an Old Grandad 114. Old Grandad's not known to be the best whiskey in the world, but the 114 had a lot of people say it's, really a lot of people say good things about it. I like it. It's a Jim Beam product, and usually Old Grandad's like at the low end of the spectrum, but the 114 is pretty hot and it's pretty tasty. But it's I heard a guy describe it like, well, the nose isn't very good and the taste isn't that great, but it's really smooth when it goes down. So I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but
tastes like crap, but it's easy to drink.
Yeah, exactly. Not bad. I mean, it's got a definite burn to it. How about you? What do you got going today?
Well, the irony is that you're drinking a nice inside sipper out on the beach, and I'm in my cold house in Iowa drinking canned margaritas. So
nice.
I had a Trader Joe's margarita, but man, way too sweet. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Like just off the charts. So, I mean, I got it down, but
so it's pretty cold there. It sounds like it's pretty cold in Chicago you were at this weekend.
Yeah, it was actually colder in Chicago than here. We were out doing some sailing on the lake, but man, it never broke 60 yesterday, and we got a good chill going. So,
man, that's brutal. That is really cold.
It was a beautiful day though, and Sundays often are really crazy there, and we didn't have too big a crowd, which was kind of nice, and
great,
good winds, and had a great time. So
nice. Well, I'm over here just sitting here on the beach of the Gulf of America, and it's quite nice out here, Kent.
Are there signs to the effect of Gulf of America in the redneck Riviera there?
There's plenty of hats.
Well, I had some time in the car. I listened to audio. I don't read anything anymore. I hate to admit that, but I used to be a big book nerd, and I hardly ever read books now. Everything's on audio.
That's crazy. You used to be able to digest a book in minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't sat down and read a book cover to cover in 3 years, something like that.
Audible is awful handy, though. I've been doing that too. That is really good.
Yeah, we love it. And it's nice. It's especially nice when we're together, we're on a trip or something, because we get to share the experience, which is really nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I listened to the Jake Tapper book about the Biden cover-up, and it was quite a story. I don't think there was anything that they said that I didn't like. Nothing was really shocking about it. It's kind of in plain sight what had happened, but it was really interesting how the inner circle, and I mean really inner circle, his wife and like 3 other people basically controlled all of the exposure that he had for the last, honestly, most of his administration. And so I don't want to digest the book for people, but let me just make a couple statements, and then maybe you can jump in on it. The characters that I felt really sympathetic towards were like other cabinet officers and stuff, because even people that think that he was in really bad shape almost universally agreed that like he wasn't completely out of it. He had, between 10 o'clock and 3 o'clock every day. I mean, he was really, but honestly, I mean, all joking aside, that's different than like he's out of it and parked in the closet and not doing anything. You know what I mean? And so a lot of the cabinet officers had this, well, yeah, I mean, he listens in meetings, he makes decisions, he speaks. Sometimes he gets a little off the rails, but they all had experiences where he was pretty good. And
And they weren't meeting that often. I mean, I think I read
right,
somewhere he did like 9 cabinet meetings his whole presidency, or it was something like that.
yeah. And I'm sympathetic. And, maybe I make excuses to myself. His decline was obvious and couldn't be not noticed. I freely admit that. I will say, he was never a great speaker, even when he was at his prime. And he tripped over words. He had the stutter, and so,
Well, but it seemed really to me dramatic over who he was when he was debating. Even when he was debating the first round with Kamala Harris, or he sounded way better then. But then,
yeah,
especially you go back to when he was vice president. I mean, he was, very sharp. It was
yeah,
like night and day difference for sure.
yeah. Well, and I think, how sharp he was, I think is how much was he aware? I mean, I think there's a narrative that, he didn't make any decisions. He wasn't in control. He was just, they wheeled him out and wheeled him back. And that was not the impression I got from the book. His decline was profound and significant, but and I tell you where, if you want to know, did he have some of his faculties? Again, I don't want to spoil the book for other people if they want to read it. So, and I think I was clear when we talked about it when the debate happened. I was like, okay, game over. That there was just no way when he had that debate with Trump that he could continue. But it was like 3 weeks before he dropped out of the race.
Yeah.
And this was in some ways the most interesting part of I mean, most of the book is kind of like, yeah, he kept getting worse and people kept noticing it. And, people that weren't on his inner circle were like, this is a problem. We've got to do something. He can't go the distance of another campaign. What are we going to do? All of those kind of concerns that you would expect. Um, but it's that 3 weeks after the debate. And I mean, his top advisors, there's like three guys, I don't remember the names. I don't know if you'd know them if I said them, who were like, well, yeah, but we've still got, we've got weeks and then we've got the convention and we're only down like 5 points. And I'm just like, like that campaign was over. Like 20 minutes into it, I said to my wife, yeah, that's not going to work. you
Right.
know, it's just not. And but
Well, and I
these
don't, and
people,
we talked about it. I mean, he probably, I don't know that he's like out of it. Like he may know what's going on. He just can't communicate. And, that's kind of one of those jobs. If you can't communicate, it's not going to work, you know?
exactly.
I,
I guess I didn't see anything that maybe leaped to the conclusion. I don't know that he was as bad at the end as Ronald Reagan was for most of his second term. He
well,
really was gone.
the thing I don't get is it's like, oh, it was a cover up. Like, was it? I mean, if it was, they were pretty shitty cover up artists. I mean, it was obvious
Right.
to anybody that the guy was downhill the last couple of years. And I don't know, like
Yeah.
I saw some interview with Jake Chapper about his book, and he's like, you know, I forget, it was some media person. It might have been a Trump. It was like Laura Trump, somebody he got in a argument with on TV, and she's like, he's obviously not nearly, I forget what she was saying, but he's obviously not with it. And he's like, well, that's totally unsubstantiated. Why would you say such a thing? Like, okay, yeah, maybe I don't know, but like anybody looking at it objectively, I mean, my beef with Jake Tapper is like, that to me is I feel like I feel less of a cover up and more like a covering for people. Cause I felt like him, it's like, where is the critical journalistic, inquisitive, like, well, that doesn't sound right. I'm going to dig into it. It's like, no, nothing to see here. Everything's good. Like
Right.
that's what's weird with cause you expect the media to go find every possible angle, like not to just be like, oh, they say he's fine. Okay, he's fine. Like, really? I mean,
Yeah. No, it was interesting. I think it's a really good point. If there was a cover up, it might have been at places like CNN and MSNBC where there's like a kind of a public denial thing, and I think that was. I think you make a good point to differentiate between, you know, was he cognizant of what's happening in the world and actively making decisions? It's a very different thing than you can string the sentences together on television so people know what you're talking about.
Right.
Um, and it sounded like that 3 week period. So basically, they've been BSing him the whole time. They were like, oh, yeah, we're a little behind, but we've got lots of time. And after the convention, you get to spend all the DNC money. And like, we're going to buy media to fix this. And I was like, no, the more you show, the worse it gets, right? Like, it was just baffling to me. But he really pushed back. And, it sounded like he really, like people tried to give him the bad news and he was like not having it for
How much
quite
of
a
that?
while.
How much of that do you think is him, and how much of it is Jill? She seemed like she was all in on that whole train.
Yeah. She does not look like much of a hero in this book.
Yeah.
And you wonder,
Well,
like, go ahead.
well, but then I'm thinking, well, what's in it for her? I mean, okay, yeah, you're the first lady, but I mean, is it that great a deal? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I, I guess people have motivations for different things. It's just like, it does seem like she really wanted it. I just question, like, you just like, is this worth it for your husband to look like an idiot? I mean, I don't know. Something I talked about with mom a lot, and she's like, what kind of woman would do that to her husband to a degree? Like, like, hey, let the guy retire. He's been in Congress for 50 years. I mean, let him be, almost like he's pushed into it somehow.
Yeah. One of the themes that comes up, and, you know, it sounds different from my side of the aisle because I think people have thought about it. And I have to say that I thought about it. They kept hammering he's the only person that's ever beaten Trump in an election, right? Like that Trump's an existential threat to democracy, and we think he's our only path. Now, there's a lot of things to unpack about that statement, but I think that was part of what people were believing. I don't know that that was Jill's motivation. I think that was more
True, I can
personal
see the
to her.
party people saying that. But that said, I think I don't know. My view is the 2020 election was more of him defeating him than Joe defeating him. Like, I don't know that Joe was that strong a candidate. I just think Trump had not done a good job of one getting people in the, whether you like what his cabinet's doing now or not, he's got a cabinet that's loyal to him. The first go around, he didn't know what the hell he's doing, and he put a bunch of people in there that totally swam afoul of him. So he couldn't, he had issues with his agenda. I think his Twitter, he tweets now on the Truth Social, but nobody reads it, so nobody cares, But
Mm-hmm.
when you're on Twitter and you're in everybody's face all the time, there's just a lot of, and the way he acted in the debates, I think he totally screwed himself in the debate. So it's like, to me, it was more. I mean, the people that voted for Joe Biden, I mean, many of them weren't voting for Joe Biden; they were voting against Trump. You know,
Sure.
and to some degree, you know, what you wound up with now, a lot of the people that are voting for him, that voted this time around, didn't necessarily vote for him. They voted against Biden. It's almost kind of reversed course.
Yeah.
You almost would have been better off having somebody. Hindsight's 2020, but having somebody else that might not have been as strong a candidate, but could have been one later. I don't know.
Well, again, this is what he said he was setting out to do, and the right thing would have been to do the minute you take over in 2020. You say, "Look, here's the deal.
I'm ready to retire. I'm going
I'm
to hand
I'm
this on
81
to the
years
next
old
guy.
or whatever he was,
Right.
and I'm not at the peak of my game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay close to home and I am going to focus on the most important things and the most important decisions. And I'm going to do that. And this cabinet that you see, any one of these people could be my successor. And I'm going to send them around the world to advance our agenda. I'm going to send them to your hometowns to help solve the problems that you have. And you're going to see a lot of them, and that's on purpose. And here we go.
I wonder though, because I got to believe we're not the. I mean, we're smart guys, Kent, but there's probably other smart guys in their circle. I wonder if they didn't recognize early on that Kamala Harris wasn't going to be strong enough to take that mantle, because I think they knew pretty early on. I mean, she wasn't as crisp probably as they wanted. So, did it come one of these strategic decisions like, okay, we can go all in on her, but then if that's a sinking ship, now we're screwed. Maybe we got to go in. I could see some indecision. I mean, if they were smart, they would have taken a guy like Buttigieg and really propelled him forward. But the problem is, she's the vice president. If you skip over her, now you're skipping over a black female. I mean, you got all kinds of crap that goes with that.
Apparently, Jim Clyburn said so. So I think you're right, but I think now again, the book could be all BS, but it felt to me watching it or listening to it, I felt less like there was a smoke-filled machine room somewhere that all the decisions were made in, which is kind of what my thought has been. I don't think there's that much thought going on. So I think what happened was that because he waited so long to bail, you just didn't have time. And there during those 3 weeks, everybody knew it was inevitable, but like, he's the president of the United States. I don't want to say you're done, get out of there, but the individual conversations between Schumer and Jeffries and other people, leaders of the party, who are like, what are we doing here?
They were all waiting. They were like, we got to call Clooney, get George Clooney, then that'll do it.
Well, Clooney is actually a huge, one of the most compelling parts, one of the big revelatory stories in the book when he saw Biden at this fundraiser, and Biden didn't know him. And his aide is like,
oh, wow.
You remember George? And Biden's like, yeah, George Clooney.
Wow.
And he was like, and again, it is just BS. I don't know, but they said he was doing the thing where he was walking around. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for, and he comes up to Clooney, who arranged the thing, like got all these A-listers together, flew in from Tuscany for the day for the thing, and had to go back for a shoot. And Biden's like, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. And they're like, this is George Clooney, who's running the whole show. And then he wrote an op-ed that I hadn't remembered until they showed it, where he was like, you gotta get out. But yeah, the way it was delayed really didn't, everybody's like, well, we should have a primary. There was 3 weeks till the
Yeah, right.
What are you going to do?
No way.
You could have done, like American Idol / Democratic National Convention. You could have had like live polls on the 3 speakers, and we're going to pick it we're going to announce it on the fly. We're going to have the big reveal.
Now, what did you think? Now, how does that square with, because your thought was it was a hit job. After reading the book, do you still think that?
There's no
the debate, anyways,
Yeah, there's no evidence to that, although it did not address, unless I missed it, the question of why did they schedule that debate so early? I don't think that, like, if it was a strategic move, it was not by the core group. He calls them the Politburo, and I can't remember the names, Donnellan and Ricchetti, or I don't know.
Yeah.
And it wasn't them, right? They were not doing that. But I think the party maybe was like, I don't think this is going to go well, and we need to do it early enough that we've got a ripcord to pull if we need to.
Yeah.
It is interesting, they talked a little bit about the scramble, and it sounded to me like, again, I don't know, is this book true? I've always kind of figured that there's like 8 people who are running the show with money and they just decide. And it didn't really sound like that. It sounded like he called her when he was going to announce that he was dropping out and sent his draft of his remarks, and there was nothing about her in there. And she was like, boss, you might tack a sentence onto this that says my vice president would do a great job behind me, right? And they wound up doing a separate statement, but she was a little chapped about that. But she got on the phone right away, and her first calls were Pritzker and Whitmer and Buttigieg,
Oh wow.
and the people. And she was like, "I'm doing this. Are we good?"
Yeah.
And put them on the spot. Well, then they're not going to say like, "Oh, well, wait, if you weren't on a private phone call with her, if you were on the news media, you'd be like, "Well, we just need the discernment of the American people on that." I don't want to cut debate off too soon, but she'd kind of already roped them. And I
Yeah.
don't think everybody talks about she was a terrible candidate. I think that she'd made a couple of key mistakes. She'd run way, way, way left early on and had kind of staked out some positions that were hard for her to reel back in. She did not have a lot of visibility. I, I don't think she was
Well,
the worst candidate in the world.
the problem with her is she doesn't have the personality to run. She does not come off remotely authentic. She's not good, with the infamous word salads all the time. She's not good at
Yeah.
just speaking off the cuff. And people that are in, it makes sense. She's not really a career politician. I mean, she's done it for the last few years, but she grew up as a lawyer. She's not like Joe Biden could rattle off crap when he was in his prime. Like he could make a speech anywhere and make it sound, if you're a congressman, you can say stuff. She's always was uncomfortable, it seemed like.
Yeah. I I guess I'm saying I don't know that it was the worst possible thing, but there was a lot of fear too, like that Jim Clyburn, I was going to go down that path. He was not happy about it before. He was like, they're gonna they're gonna bail this, they're gonna goof this up, and they're gonna hand it to her at the last minute with no prep, and they're gonna be like, see, the woman blew it. The black woman blew it.
Well, you said something a minute ago that made me think about everybody feels like there's so much conjecture that everything's all orchestrated and the trilateral commission is deciding who the next president of the Bohemian Grove. And, I was just thinking about that. Like, how much of that is really because it's more comforting to a degree to think there's really smart people running everything and making all these decisions, that's more comfortable than what I think is probably the truth is it's just a bunch of Yahoo like us, that regular people making decisions, and it's messy and ugly and not really that organized. You know what I mean? Like people want the conspiracy. I feel like the conspiracy is more of like a comfort factor. Like, oh yeah, the trilaterals calling all the shots. There's somebody in charge. No, it's just a bunch of idiots like us, figuring it out.
I think, yeah, that's actually an interesting point, and I agree. It's a little different to think about it that it really is happening live. Some of the most humanizing moments were when Schumer finally decided he needed to go, and they'd had a meeting of Senate Democrats, and he was like, I got to go talk to him. I don't think his people, there was this big question of like, are his people telling him that it's a disaster, that it's a
Right.
bloodbath? And of course, the Senate and the Congress, they're like, you're going to drag me down with you. That's what they're thinking. And so Schumer gets on the train and goes to Wilmington or to Rehoboth Beach and it said, and you could clearly, they didn't footnote it, but you could clearly hear, like he had said this to Tapper or the other guy. He's like, I'm riding on the train. I'm going through in my head. How do you raise that subject with the president of the United
Yeah.
States? And it sounded so human and so real. You know
Like
what I mean?
like taking the keys away from your 80-year-old father.
like multiple people said that exact thing.
Wow.
And you picture Chuck Schumer going to Delaware to tell the president of the United States, you got to get out. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. In some ways, it was, to your point, like it's a little frightening to think about, like, this stuff really is in the hands of human beings to make it
Yeah.
work out. But kind of nice that it's in the hands of human beings to work it out. And I don't know, it felt very human to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like it. Yeah. Chuck Schumer, I'm not, there's probably little things that come out of his mouth in the political realm I would agree with, but he actually seems like I'm going to, all the conservative people listening are going to cringe when I say this, but he seems like actually a pretty nice guy. I read an article about him by his staffers, and his staffers were saying, like, he is all these staffers start working for him, and he's like, so when are you getting married? Like his big thing is making, creating families, like
Mm.
people creating families and a life together. And he talks about marriage all the time and about the benefit of, a family and everything. It's like, he sounds like a nice fella. I mean, and he's one of those guys too. I mean, he even, you know, uh, I don't know. I've seen him interact with Trump a few times where, totally disagree with each other, but he's one of those guys that seems like you could reach him. You know what I mean? It's not like he's like, oh, you disagree with me, I hate you. It seems a little more old school, I think.
Well, he's also, I mean, he's good at his job. He knows that he know. There's the old thing, those who know that they know, those who don't know that they don't know. Like, he knows that he knows. He he's good at his job. And in fact, that was one of the things that he said to Biden. He's like, look, we did not take a vote, but based on what all of the Democrat senators said, he said, if we'd have taken a vote, I don't think you'd have had more than 5 votes in your favor. And you know how good I am at counting votes. It's like, but like he does, he's good at, for what it's worth. I think probably someone who grates you a lot more. I have never understood the loathing and hatred for Nancy Pelosi, other
Really?
than that she's the leader of the Democratic Congress, who she was incredibly effective, incredibly effective.
Yeah, yeah. Except she makes me want to vomit every time I hear her get up and talk. I don't know. Just from a personal standpoint, like Chuck, I could deal with Nancy. Just the personality, or nails on a chalkboard. But
Hmm.
I'm sure a lot of it has to do with her political persuasion. And
I just you don't find very many people in the history of the republic that have led in the House of Representatives in and out of power so effectively for so long. I mean, she was a force.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it was an interesting book. I really would encourage people to read it. Again, there was not. I was kind of waiting for some, like, oh my gosh, mic drop, smoking gun moments. And to your point, cover up. I mean, there's a lot
well,
of
and then I'm
footage
like,
of the whole thing.
then I'm thinking too, like, is this? Why did he write this book? Like, is this like a mea culpa of, like, you know trying to gain some credibility in some way? Of like, no, all my defenses of his uh of his sound mind. I'm gonna
I
somehow
was
make up for it, or
completely, I was completely bamboozled by the campaign's cover up.
this massive cover up. I thought everything was fine. Like, okay.
Yeah, you do wonder if it's kind of like trying to claw your way
Tr-
out of the.
trying to make sure he doesn't go down as the next Dan Rather or something like that. Yeah.
No, it's a good point. I do wonder about that a little bit. No, it was a good book. But there were no, like I said, there's no
Does he
moment.
narrate it?
Yeah, yeah, he
Yeah.
did. But there's no moment where you're like, I had no idea. No, you had every idea of everything. We all saw it, you know. And
Now,
I will
does he
admit,
say? Is there anybody in the book that is still a diehard that thinks he should have stayed in?
only those like three people around him.
They all think he should have stuck it out.
Yeah. In fact, they were like, well, see, we gave her over Kamala and she lost it. He'd have beat Trump.
Well,
No.
well, Jill's got to be one of those because Jill despises Kamala Harris. I mean, you can tell every time they see each other.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
again, it's like, I don't know. I mean, but that's the thing. I guess if you think you're good enough to be the president of the United States or be the wife of the president, you probably have a different opinion of yourself and the world than I do. But it's like, aren't isn't he better off going to Hawaii when he's 80 and then enjoy a few years before the guy dies? I'm like, how is that? I don't know. I don't, that state of mind, I don't get, but there's folks like that, you know, they could be doing that till the day they died. They'd do it all day, every day. But
One of the things that the book traces the decline to, I mean, obviously it was a long time coming. We all saw it, but very, very closely correlated with Hunter's decline and crash too.
mm,
Like that was, they pointed that out a lot. Like look at the milestones when Hunter was charged, when he was convicted. Like those were like big steps down for him,
yeah,
which which I could see that.
yeah, parent, you see your kid go through something that adds years, takes years away for sure. I'm sure.
Go through something or that they do something that, talk about a mess, man. That whole thing. Just
What happened with him? Did they ever charge him with anything?
yeah, they charged him. They charged him and convicted him of buying a gun while he was an active drug addict.
Hmm.
Because you got to answer on the form, no, I'm not using any illegal drugs. By the way, that made me wonder, like, is that law still on the books? I think it is. And given the prevalence of cannabis in this country that's still federally illegal, like, is that a thing? I'm not really in the market for
Yeah,
handguns
that's
right now,
interesting.
but like, because that was the crime that they charged him for and for which he was convicted for falsely, a false affidavit when buying a gun was the crime that he was convicted of,
Hmm.
which I thought was, like there was a lot there that you could have convicted him on, but that was the one. And the other one was a tax evasion thing.
Okay.
So he was convicted, but it was before his sentencing that Biden pardoned him. And so it all kind of went away.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, a little off subject, but I wouldn't mind. It'd be an interesting topic to do. I haven't followed the Texas legislature at all, and I do like the way they run Texas. I mean, I love the economy, and I think they do a lot of things right. But it sounds like there's some. I don't know. They're about to pass a bill. I think they just passed a bill banning cannabis in Texas, like banning all the Delta 8 and all that stuff, which is really weird to me because it certainly seems like the Trump agenda is a much more laissez-faire kind of almost what's the term I'm thinking of, what's the political viewpoint of let people live their lives,
Libertarian kind of.
libertarian. Yeah,
Almost.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, he seems to take a much more libertarian position, and this is like an old school Republican conservative, like we're going to get rid of that. So I don't know. I need to read up on it, but
Well, I think, of course, and I think I've said this. I detest Trump personally, but I don't think his personal beliefs are as much of a like on the social issues. I think he's pretty liberal on social issues, which is kind of out of phase with his. It's the people that he empowers. And that's what I would call what's happening if that's what's going on in Texas and there's other places in the country. It's not Trump who's the problem, but Trump and the MAGA
well,
movement have empowered people that I think are out of their minds.
but it's kind of like that. I guess my point is that seems to be a position that's out of step with the rest of the mega movement. So then it becomes like, well, I mean, that's a whole other topic for another day, but it's like, then it's like, what is a Republican,
I think it's a huge issue, Kyle. And you mentioned about personality. I maintain this to this day. Trump has atrophied the Democratic Party because all we do is hate Trump, right? Like we just hate Trump, and I do, and it's easy for me to overlook things like my party's candidate is senile because I hate Trump, and this and that because I hate Trump. And but the equal and opposite reaction to that in politics, and I say this, I think that the Republicans have a lot more to lose because just as the Democrats have slipped into this easy thing, we hate Trump, and so we don't go much deeper than that. I don't want this to sound confrontational, but a
You
lot of the stuff
confrontational? No.
I think a lot of the stuff that like Trump wanted to be president, he was not a Mitt Romney Republican conservative and said, I have this vision for getting our nation back to a Bible belief. Like, no, that was never his thing. And I also don't think, I mean, talk about economics and fiscal policy. Say what you want to about Doge. This budget that the House of Representatives passed adds $3 trillion over 10 years to the deficit. That's not a fiscally conservative position. If it's what you think is the right thing, the tax cuts, fine.
Okay. So it's a $300 billion deficit. The deficit in the last budget was $2 trillion
In 1 year.
Yes.
I believe you, but 3 trillion seems like a lot of money to me too. And so,
20 trillion would be a lot in 10 years.
right, but who?
It was one point one. It was 1.8 trillion in the last budget deficit. So now it's down to 300 billion. Okay, yeah, 300 billion is a lot, but it's a hell of a lot less than 1.8 trillion.
Yeah, fair. It just doesn't seem like it seems like BS to me is what it seems like. Oh, Doge is going to cut 2 trillion. No, 170 billion, and we still maintain tax cut. If you want to balance the budget, why are you giving away $2 trillion a year in tax cuts?
But I mean 300 billion on a $5 billion budget. That's closer to balancing the budget than we've been in 10 years. I mean, we haven't had a $300 billion deficit.
Well, and Joe Biden hasn't been president for 10 years either.
But
so
every year he is president, it was trillion, well over $1 trillion in deficit spending.
What was Trump's?
Yeah, it wasn't that big.
Look it up.
We'll look it up. Let's have our math together the next time. But I don't.
Well, I don't want to sideline that. I'm just saying that here's my hypothesis. I think that like Trump didn't run because he wanted to lower the deficit. He might think that's a good thing. Trump wants us all to be working in sneaker factories. He wants to bring manufacturing back. He's got I think weird ideas, but
I think it's a brilliant idea. Not sneaker factories, but there's a lot of factories. We've talked about that. There's a lot of manufacturing that I think will be beneficial for this.
Anyway, here's my point. A lot of the people that voted for Trump voted for him because he's an asshole. They voted for him because of the swagger. Not you. I think that you had in mind a theory of economic policy that you saw that he would deliver for you. That he maybe has, maybe hasn't. I think that there are voters that got him over the finish line who are not true believers in the conservative movement. And honestly,
but he wasn't. I guess that's my point, though. He didn't run as a conservative. He didn't run as a Romney Republican. Romney Republican is the rhino.
I agree with you. This is what I'm saying. I agree with you about that. And I'm telling you, though, that those people that aren't anchored to any ideology or philosophy or kind of the low information voter, they're not going to stick with the Republican Party because now Trump got me to vote for Republicans and now I'm all in on Republicans. You're going to have to win those. And those people did not come to you. I'm not talking about everybody, but enough of a margin to put him over the top are not people that were like, oh, I really want tax cuts because because my state and local, no, because they didn't get any tax cuts out of it. You're going to have to do something to the traditional Republican philosophy is not going to keep those people anchored to your party. You're going to have to replace
Well,
the Trump
what
personality.
what will keep them anchored to our party is the batshit crazy leftist policies that the Democrats want to run the other direction. I agree with you. I think if the Democrats were smart, they could make a run to the center and they could pull back a bunch of those folks, but they're not gonna. They're gonna go further left and they're gonna alienate all these people.
I don't know. I hope you're not right. I definitely agree with that. I like the noise I'm hearing out of Chicago lately. Oh, one of the best comments that I can't use on our podcast because of the language rules that we have agreed to. You know who Ari Emanuel is? Rahm's brother.
I don't.
He runs like Hollywood. Period. Like he's the head of, I don't even know what the company is now. Endeavor, IMG. Like anything that's anybody Ari Emanuel runs in the entertainment business, and he was ballistic about Biden running. But his brother Rahm has been making some noise, and Rahm is a very centrist Democrat.
Yeah.
I think, I think obviously there's elements of my party that are full speed ahead as far left as they can go. I think a lot of us are having the kind of existential conversation where we say, how did we lose young men voting, and I would say voting against their own interest? Again, if you're rich, fine. If you're not rich, these tax cuts, you're going to lose. You're going to lose Medicaid. We got
What?
families in this country that
You're going to
are in
lose
Medicaid.
Medicaid. You're on that train now. You're going to lose Medicaid, Medicare, and we're cutting
Well, I said Medicaid,
Social
not Medicare
Security.
yet, but not Trump maybe, but some of those kooks in Congress would love nothing better than to get rid of Social Security and Medicare, but they're not willing to say it out loud.
Okay. I think you're delusional, but okay.
You don't think you'd find anybody in Congress who would say if they could get away with it, they would do away with Social Security, privatize Social Security completely?
Okay. Yeah, if you can get away with it, and you can't, so they're not for it. They all want to get reelected. I mean, nobody's touching Social Security. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't think that the priorities in this budget are especially a good deal for low income people. And yet a lot of low income people
Who
voted
don't
for
pay
Trump.
any taxes,
Well, right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The no tax on tips is a biggie. That's a plus. A lot of service people. That impacts a ton of service people.
Yeah.
Although they probably weren't going to pay any taxes anyways.
Exactly.
I don't know.
So it's a freebie.
Part of me though, it's like, okay, I feel like Trump's party is a broad tent, and it's shifted probably much more to the center. If the Democrats can come up with a candidate that's closer to the center, it's not going to change that much. And I think, I'm probably okay with that. I mean, if Bill Clinton came in, and if a Bill Clinton ran for office and won, stuff's not going to change a hell of a lot. It's going to be similar. And I think if the Democrats are smart, that's where they'll go. But if they go further left, I think it's a loser.
Well, I agree. I guess I'm just saying that I believe that there are Republicans in leadership who think that they have a mandate for their plan, and they don't. They have a mandate for Trump. Trump has a mandate to be Trump.
Yeah,
that's
fair.
why he got elected.
Yeah.
And somebody who thinks, and I think that Mike Johnson is a classic example. This is what I'm talking about. These, some of that Freedom Caucus, I think they're thinking, maybe we get him to run a third term, or we'll get Don Jr. to be president next. And then finally we'll be able to get rid of Social Security. And I'm just like, no,
why do you think they're, I just don't get that as the core belief that all these people are wanting to get rid of Social Security. Why would they want to get rid of Social Security?
Through the years, I've heard a lot of conservatives talk about, we should just privatize Social Security. I've heard that, and maybe I'm wrong. They're not. It's not. Well, wasn't that in? I don't know. What was that part of Project 2025?
Yeah, I don't know. Is that in there? I mean,
So, but let's pick this. Okay, so take my Social Security claim out of the fact. Project 2025. Trump's like, I didn't have anything to do with that. Those people think that they had a mandate for Project 2025. They didn't. Trump has a mandate to be Trump.
so you don't think Trump is playing the 2025 rule book like you
Oh,
did
he
earlier?
doesn't care about that stuff. He doesn't
Oh,
care about that stuff
but
at all.
that's what you thought before, is that he was going to enact Project 2025. Now you're not worried about
Maybe I've misspoken, Kyle. I never thought that he gave a half a damn about that stuff. But the Freedom Caucus, all that crew, they do think that, and they do want to pass that. And because Trump won, they got a majority, and now they have both houses in Trump. I never thought Trump wanted that stuff, but I think he doesn't care about it. He doesn't care about it enough to veto it. He doesn't care about any of the social issues, but he got those people elected, and he's not going to argue with him. He'll sign whatever they pass and send up to him on that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think it's a very real danger, but not because Trump cares about it.
it. Yeah, I think I disagree with you. I mean, I get where you would think that, but I don't think he's nearly as ideologically shallow as you like to think he is. I don't know that he's, there's probably a lot of things he doesn't have long thought out positions on, but at the same time, I think he has a lot of instincts about many of the things that he's doing that are important to him. Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of what he's doing, he's thought about a really long time. I don't know, but I can certainly, I obviously wouldn't expect you to think that.
I will give you props, though, just as an aside, you used a Latin phrase earlier in our conversation when you said mea culpa, and you used it properly. I think that's commendable. It's unfortunate that the Secretary of Homeland Security apparently was absent on the Constitution Day when they defined habeas corpus. Did you catch that one?
I didn't. I missed that one.
Christy Nome, she was in
In
one of
case
the
in
Congress.
case you didn't see what I'm looking at, I haven't been paying a lot of attention to the news the last couple of
Yeah,
days.
well, you're smart for that. But one of the Congress people was grilling Christy Nome, and they're like, "Tell me what habeas corpus means." And she's like, "Well, it's a power that the president has," and it's just like, yeah, no. Remember when Republican congressmen carried the little pocket constitution that they'd wave at you? This chick doesn't even know what the words mean. It
Oh,
was embarrassing. Hey, thanks for joining us on this episode of Bourbon and Rum Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us keep the good spirits flowing.
And we invite you to join this conversation. Follow us on our Facebook page. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear.
And until next time, cheers.